say that the anointing of God only goes 3 rows back. 1, 2, 3. So 2, 4, maybe 6 of you are going to get to go. 7 will get the anointing of God this morning. The rest of you are going to miss out. Got a lot to be thankful for this morning. If you haven't heard yet, both of my sons were in a motorcycle accident last night involving 3 deer. And they're both okay. Matt's got a road of healing to come before him. So if you are so led to lay hands on him this morning, please ask him where you can lay hands on his body, because he is road rashed from head to tail.
Literally head to toe.
Yeah, the tops of his fingers scraped. I mean, there's a lot of area on his body that was scraped up. Broken elbow, broken wrist, possible surgery ahead of him. So if you can keep him in prayer, I would be ever so grateful. Keep my family in prayer. Your pastor's family is under a spiritual attack and physical attack. And we have been for a while. And the way the Lord has worked this week, it has been utterly amazing. How many of you have ever been in a position where you feel like you can't hear from God? And yet He's talking to you all the time. And if we would just tune into the frequency, how many are not from a big city? All right? If you've lived around here all your life, you're not from a big city. Well, down in the Detroit area on I-94, there's a series of bridges. And if you're listening to AM radio, you never want to listen to a biblical message, because you keep missing out every time you go under the bridge, That's where the black Baptist preachers, I think, black preachers in Detroit, the reason they go in between is because they have it timed out. So when you go under the bridges, they're not saying it. When you come out on the other side of the bridge, then you're getting the word, and then the next bridge, and then they say something. Okay? There are times in all of our lives where we're going to feel like we're not hearing from God, but God is speaking to us. And when we tune into the right frequency, whether it's AM, FM, or spiritual, WLIFE, or WORD, 7.77 on your FM dial. When we tune into the frequency that God is on, and we set the clutter aside, and just listen, God speaks to us. And God has been speaking to me off and on all week, and I wasn't catching it in the beginning of the week. I was just like, Lord, where are you? Where are you? Speak to me. I need to hear from you. And he was speaking, and I know he was speaking, but I wasn't getting it. And my wife came to me Friday morning, I think, and she says, I really feel like God is saying something to you you're not hearing. And so I'm saying it to you. She said, I think Pastor Josh needs to preach this Sunday. And I said, okay, I'll take it before the Lord. And I took it to the Lord, and the Lord confirmed that he was to speak this Sunday. And so I texted Pastor Josh, and I said, hey, do you have any bottled up preach in you? And he didn't respond. And until early yesterday morning, he responded and said yes, and said that the Lord was speaking. I'm not going to take any of his thunder this morning. If you know me, this church means the world to me. Next to Jesus and my wife and my family, you are the most important people on the face of this earth. And I highly respect each one of you, and I respect the call of God that He's placed on my life. And I'm very, very cautious of who I allow to step before you and speak into your lives. But I also believe that the Holy Spirit has been speaking in the way that this was all orchestrated. He knew that I wasn't going to get sleep, and would probably be no good to you. But I know that the Lord's going to speak to me this morning through this word. He's already told me to be attentive to every word that proceeds from this man's mouth this morning. And so without further ado, I want to introduce to you Pastor Josh, if you don't know him. And I have already passed the mantle, the responsibility of this church for these next few hours.
high school, I could not stand. Matter of fact, I hated giving presentations. Fear, just unparalleled amounts of fear would come over me, and I would stutter, and I would freak out, and I would panic, and I would just start to worry, and I would ramble on and not make much sense. It's an absolute honor to be standing before you today. Because I know I don't deserve it. I don't deserve to be standing here. What I deserved was hell. Let me just be honest with you for a minute. It wasn't until God set me up and I humored a girl and went to church on one Sunday. And that changed the rest of my life.
Amen.
For my eternity. One single act took place. And that set up my eternity. So I understand what it means to stand here, and I know how much of an honor it is for one pastor allowing me to do this. Because I know if I had my church, I would probably have the same view you would, Pastor. You shouldn't just let anybody get up here, and I appreciate that more than I think you know. So, anyway, with that, we'll get started. We're going to be out of the book of Genesis today, chapter 21. And before I forget, one, let me say something to you, young man. You keep praying for people like that, you're going to save somebody someday. Your boldness, even though we get a little emotional sometimes, it's perfectly okay to do that. And I hope that my son has a heart as big as you one day. God bless you, little guy. Man. We are going to be out of, again, Genesis 21, verses 8 through 14. And I would just like to go ahead and get started. The prelude to this, Abraham and Sarah have had their son. Abraham and Hagar had their little deal. And this is where we're at. Verse 8. So the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast on the same day that Isaac was weaned. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom he had borne to Abraham, scoffing. She was jealous. She was mad. She was irritated. Therefore, she said to Abraham, "Cast out this bond woman and her son. For the son of this bondwoman shall not heir with my son, namely, with Isaac." All the matter was very displeasing in Abraham's sight because of his son. But God said to Abraham, "Do not let it be displeasing in your sight because of the lad, or because of your bondwoman. Whatever Sarah has said chapters, you hear Sarah say, I am barren. I cannot produce children for you. I cannot provide you with an heir. But you have a bondwoman, Hagar. In an attempt to keep this rated G here this morning. Go be with Hagar. She will provide you with a son. And now we hear God saying to her, or to him rather, listen to your wife. It's interesting how when we attempt to help God, it's interesting how we attempt to help God be God, we get into trouble.
Yes.
I'll leave that right there. Verse 12. But God said to Abraham, do not let it be displeasing in your sight because of the lad or because of your bondwoman. Whatever Sarah has said to you, listen to her voice. For in Isaac your seed shall be called. Yet I will also make a nation of the son of the bondwoman, because he is also your seed. So Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread and a skin of water and put it on her shoulder. He gave it and the boy to Hagar and sent her away. Then she departed and wandered into the wilderness of Beersheba. Father, as this brings witness this morning to our hearts and to our minds, Lord, I ask that you open the floodgates, open the spiritual eyes and the spiritual ears of the people that are listening to the word this morning. Lord, let my imperfect lips bring forth your perfect word this morning. Thank you again with all of my heart this morning, Father, to be able to bring your word forth to these people. We ask that in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. So the question has to be asked, do you believe that God has a plan for your life? Nobody.
Yes.
Amen. The issue is God's timing, though, isn't it? You know, God takes a really long time to do stuff. At least he does for me, anyway. I wanted to be married and had kids way earlier than what I did, and I wanted to have the house and the white picket fence and the dog. I wanted all that. I wanted it way too soon, though. And God knew better. Because had I gotten what I had wanted before I was mature enough to get it, it would have shambles, ruins, okay? Everything would have came tumbling down, so to speak. God has a plan for each and every one of us, of course, as long as we're able to, or allow ourselves to listen to his voice and follow his direction. Whether you know it or not, God is trying to lead you and to into a place of untold blessings that he's prepared for us. Both here and both in eternity. But we must keep faith on track. You see, the problem here with Abraham is, my personal opinion is, he didn't think God was going to do what he said he was going to do. It's taken too long, Lord. Why is this taking so long? There are certain things that we just need to simply get rid of in life before God will move you forward in the faith walk for the calling that you have personally you all have a calling. It's not all pulpit preaching. It might be missionary work. It might be, helping the sick in your field of work. There is a ministry for every believer on the planet. Okay? So there are certain things that absolutely must go away in order for that to take place. So the title of today's message is Kiss Hagar Goodbye. It's time. It's time. It's been long enough. There are things that we just hang on to because we're scared. There are things that we don't let go of because they're familiar to us, whether it be a person, a place, or a thing. Why do we get so comfortable outside of the will of God? Why is that? I don't have that answer. But why is that? Why do we get so comfortable being in an uncomfortable situation? Now, at this point, Abraham's life was really in danger of completely going off course when he came to this kind of crossroad with this decision in life. And the text today kind of centers around Abraham's decision to really ignore God's plan and listen to his wife Sarah's plan to provide him with a child. Okay? Now, you have to understand something. Sarah was absolutely wrong in doing what she had done in reference to Abraham and Hagar. Okay? But Abraham, the head, the leader, the one the family looked up to, didn't say, no, I'm not doing that. The leader, the one who is looked up to, agrees to have a relationship with Hagar outside of the will of God. Okay? So, once Sarah saw the incompatibility of the son of promise and the son of the bondwoman, she was right in telling Abraham to cast out Hagar, because she recognized they had to go. She recognized that she had made a mistake. Lo and behold, she made a mistake. We all make mistakes, church, amen? Amen. We have to be able to make the mistakes and move on, amen? It's when we make the mistake and continue on in the mistake and keep rolling on with it, and everything snowballs and falls downhill. Sometimes you have to live something before you can preach it. Sometimes you have to live right through this thing before you can preach it. I had so many Hagars. So many. Between substance abuse and relationship circumstances and just general choices, I had to let go of people that I loved. Hear me. I had to say goodbye to people that I genuinely loved and cared about, because I knew that if I had stayed in that same predicament, if I had stayed hanging out with those same people, going to those same bars, going to those same parties, going to those same people's houses, if I would have stayed doing that, there's a giant umbrella that God has over us. Each and every one of you have an umbrella. The happened here. It's exactly what happened here. We try to rush God.
Yep.
God knows what He's doing.
Yes, he does.
God knows what He's doing. I'm preaching to myself this morning.
Amen.
You know, I've got bills, but I want 80 acres. And I want it not right now. Y'all got realtors in the house? No. Right. Don't much God. But, you know, I'm trying to level with you guys because sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes there is this misconception that pastor, at least for me anyway, when I was going to Pastor Rick's church before I got saved, started dating God, all that, even before all that, he was on a pedestal to me. He was above everybody else. Until I recognized he was just a human like I was, who needed grace, and he needed mercy, and he needed God's long suffering in his life, and he needed everything that I needed. And that helped me in my salvation, because man, if he needs God, there's hope for me. You know. So I can always appreciate that. But there are some certain things or reasons, if you will, that I'd like to get into as to why we need to kiss Hagar goodbye. And you can insert whatever you want into that little phrase in your own life. You know, there are certain things that we got to get rid of. And I like to just kind of ponder on that. But see, what's interesting to me, though, is Abraham couldn't see it right then. He couldn't see the promise that God had given him immediately. Had he done that, he would have been patient, waiting upon the Lord, and wouldn't have created this, quote, Ishmael, or this problem, had he not gone outside of God's covenant. This is a perfect example of what happens when you choose to not pray and seek the Lord's face and make decisions based off of your own judgment. This is what gets us in trouble. So, he had to kiss her goodbye because their relationship was a flat mistake. It should not have happened. Okay? Hagar isn't necessarily evil, you guys. I'm not saying that all these Hagars, quote Hagars in our lives are evil things or bad things. Or anything. Some things are just here for a season in our lives. Sometimes certain situations, certain people come in and then they go. And you go, well, wait, Lord, I like that one. I like it. Lord, why can't I? Because it's time for them to go. It is time for them to move on. It is time for you to move on. It's when we turn around and we try to rekindle that flame with that person, place, or thing that you know should be gone. So when we get in trouble. So, again, she wasn't necessarily an evil circumstance. You know what I mean? She was a bondwoman who was there doing her job, and she did her job, and that was it. And then all of a sudden, Sarah gets jealous and kicks him out, and all for doing her job. But anyway, still Sunday. She is definitely a detour in the plan, though. Okay, she is a detour in the plan God had for those two. And now we see throughout the world that this creation on rushing the Lord has created. So there's no wonder why there is so much turmoil with the children of Ishmael and the children that hold the promise. There's a reason had to go because she helped Abraham feel comfortable in unbelief. Okay? She made him feel comfortable in the unbelief. Because by not, the simple act was the unbelief. Okay? And until Isaac came around, that was great. I've got a son. I finally have an heir, etc. Right? So, sometimes we build relationships or we get attached to things, and they're not necessarily a source of evil. They're really not. But they're not what God wanted for you. And you go and get them anyway. I know I've done that. Done that so many times. Rushed a decision, made a decision, and then what? Okay, Lord. I do it all the time. Do it all the time. So, Paul says this, all things are lawful for me, but not all things are helpful. All things are lawful for me, but not all things edify. That's out of 1 Corinthians 10:23. The point to all this, it takes maturity to know the difference between the things that are helpful and the things that are detrimental to our walk with God. There might not be a commandment against, that particular person or that particular place or that particular thing. But doing so will lead us off track. Okay? This is exactly what happened. Getting led off track. And Hagar also represents that which, we are trusting in and holding on to instead of God. That's what Hagar represents. Hagar represents the person, place, or thing in your life that you are trusting instead of the Lord. So, when the plan of God becomes difficult to follow, we often insert our own ideas or directions and ideas on how to help God out. Right? Well, it's a great idea. It's never a great idea. At least in my case, it's never a great idea. I've tried to help the Lord many times. Many times. And it has left me with heartache and more problems than I wanted. I'll give a couple examples here shortly, but it's amazing to me how if we just get out of our own way and allow God to do what God is going to do anyway. I mean, if we could just get out of our own way, if we could just kiss Hagar goodbye, if we could get her and everything that is associated with her out, and keep it out, okay? My house was broken into 3 times in a year and a half living in Saginaw City before I decided to put security systems. You would think after the first time I would have gotten, the deadbolt, the security system, the alarm, the big crazy dog, all of that. Nope. It happened 2 more times after that. And then finally I went and put this super crazy alarm system on. Little did I know, I was outside of the covering of the Lord at the time, unsaved, and all of that stuff was going to go away anyway. I just didn't know it. All of that stuff was already gone. All of that stuff was already gone because without God, you have nothing anyway. Okay, so if you don't let it go on your own, you're going to lose it in the end anyhow. Okay? That's difficult to hear. That's even difficult to say. But it's the truth, and the truth will set you free. Okay? So, moving on. He's got to kiss her goodbye because of firstly, it involves trusting yourself and not the Lord, or trusting the circumstance and not the Lord. But once we go outside of God's will, we start to produce things that aren't necessarily good for you. You know. So Ishmael is an exact product of unbelief. A problem that arises, and don't get me wrong, the Lord will give you problems, but He's going to grow you in your faith walk. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about getting outside of the covering or outside of the will of God and creating your own ball mess. Okay? So Ishmael is the product of unbelief. Now, again, Sarah may have initiated the contact, if you will, or the meeting, if you will. But Abraham is the one who cultivated the relationship. Okay? The devil can try to plant a seed in your brain or in your mind or the powers of darkness. And if you don't cultivate it, if you don't water that thing, it's never going to come to fruition. So when we hear things that people say to us, we really need to take those things with a grain of salt and go to the Lord prayerfully and seek His face about the decision that we need to make. And in the end, it might not be the decision that you want, to be quite honest. It might not be the thing you wanted. It may not be the situation that you wanted to get yourself in. But when you're under the covering, or if you're in the will of the Lord, it's all going to come out right in the end. There are no Ishmaels under the covering. Okay? So, again, Abraham cultivated the relationship. So, this is obviously not what God had planned in the first place to fulfill His promise. But yet we see the decision be made to go ahead with the plan, and I'm going to use air quotes here, before it's too late. Lord, I'm getting old. Sarah, she old, Lord. She's old. We're starting to get old. We're old.
Careful.
Come down. Lord have mercy. When is it going to happen, Lord? We're old. When is it my turn, Lord? When is it going to stop? You have to ask yourself one of two questions. Is this the will of God? Am I under the will of God, under the covering of the Lord? Or did I create this Ishmael myself? That's what you have to ask yourself. Did God give me this problem? Or did I create this? That's where it really boils down to. Is if it's from the Lord, it's first of all, it's a good thing. Problems from the Lord are good problems. Oh, that sounds really weird. Why would God give us problems? Why would God make Joshua walk around a building for 6 days? Perfectly quiet. Don't say a word. You'll screw it up. Listen to what I have to say to you. Listen to the direction that I give you. And when you follow through on what I say to you and go in the direction that I say to go in, you're going to miss all of those things that would have hurt you by making that left turn when you wanted to make that left turn, or making a simple phone call to an old friend. Who knows? Maybe dinner with Andy and Deidre wasn't a good idea this week. I don't know. We just didn't happen. I had friends come up here, old friends. I love them to death. They actually, when I lost my house, they were the first ones to say, we'll take you. So I owe them a great deal hit it hard. And, God changed some things in my life, and my best friend had to go. My best friend had to go. It wasn't easy. It's still not easy. But he was my best friend in the whole world. Younger than I am, 5, 6 years. Doesn't matter. But I had to say goodbye to Hagar. I had to let him go. Because if I would have stayed there, and it wasn't his fault, we were drinking mice. Just a guy I called to go out and have a couple and have a good time and go back home and do it again the next day. Was he making me do those things? Absolutely not. I did it upon my own free will. The point I'm trying to make here is I had to let someone that I absolutely love walk out and leave because I couldn't stand here before you today and do what I do and be where I'm at and have what I have and love who I love if I wouldn't have made the decision to kiss Hagar goodbye. That's what I'm trying to say. Had I not done that, had I not made the decision to decide I can't do this anymore. It's not that I don't want to. Again, remember, at the time I was unsaved. I loved drinking. Make no mistake about it. But it was killing me. The decision I was making was killing me. And I didn't care, is what happened. So, I had to make a choice. Am I going to continue making the decisions that I'm making? Or am I going to allow God to actually do what God said he was going to do in my life if I would just let him do it? Okay? So that's where we're at. Abraham creates this problem out of unbelief, with the simple fact of, Lord, it's getting late here. My clock's ticking, and we got to get this ball rolling here. I'm not getting any younger. So he attempts to help God, and he creates a problem in the meantime. I like what T.D. Jakes has to say a lot. I kind of feed off his ministry. He says about this whole scenario, he says, those are the kind of decisions that we make when we think God is not going to bless us. That's interesting. I'll trust you for this, and this, Lord, but that one, I got to be in control of that one. That one right there, I gotta have my hand on that. Yeah. He also goes on to say, when we start making arrangements for God, because he didn't do what you thought he was going to do when you thought he was going to do it. So, good question has to be asked. So why couldn't God have fulfilled his promise through Ishmael? Well, because he wasn't the son of promise. That's why. Abraham, you went around me to try to get the promise. Here's your problem. If you'd have just hung on, you wouldn't have the problem. You just have the promise. Okay? You would just have the promise. So, and we're all guilty of that. Amen. We're all guilty of that in one way or another. And we all make silly decisions, and we think that we're doing the right thing, and then it just knocks you on your back. And then you wonder why that happened and all that stuff. It's just, again, it's that snowball effect. One problem leads to another, and another, and another, and it all unfolds if we can just wait patiently upon the Lord. It's easier said than done, because yes, we have a humanity or a carnality that we fight every day. But that's where prayer, fasting, all that comes in. So, secondly, Ishmael represents the work of man to fulfill the promise of God. Say it again. Ishmael represents the work of man in an attempt to fulfill the promise of God. Okay? Ishmael also represents what Abraham loved as well as a reflection of himself. It's interesting. And, after it was all said and done, it was easy for Sarah to say, get her out of here. Because she had seen what that relationship had produced. Hagar, scoffing, jealous, all that strife and all that anger inside the tribe. She got to go. It created too much tension. She had to go. So, in Sarah's mind, there was no emotional conflict because it wasn't Sarah's son. There was no emotional attachment there. There was no strings attached. Okay? It was just that woman and that boy gotta get out of here. Okay? So there was no issue or no emotion attached to those two for her because she didn't create the issue. There was no struggle, there was no longing, there was no, she didn't seek counsel or anything like that. It was just time for her to go. The third thing that brings me here is he had to kiss Hagar goodbye because God was calling him on. And there it really is. That's the kicker right there. We got to move on, church. We have got to get the bad decisions that we've made, deal with them, because now we have to, right? We created them. But then we have to move on. There comes a point when you really have to say, and actually take a step back and go, wow, that was a goofy one. That one was goofy. And you have to make a decision to either stay in that big pen, stay in that mess that you created for yourself, or to get up, dust yourself off, take a shower, whatever you have to do, and move on and kiss Hagar goodbye. It has to happen. In every one of our lives, there is something that is holding us back from allowing God to allow us to move on to the next stage in our walk with Him. You see, there are levels, right? I'm on the base level here, you've got the second level here, the step, third, fourth, etc. Okay, if I'm not listening or adhering to what the Lord has to say to me, or if I keep going outside of the will of what the Lord has for me, I'm going to be stuck right here. It's not until I kiss Hagar goodbye and get back under the covering of the Lord that He'll now, it's interesting because He'll wait, and He'll wait, and He'll wait, and He'll wait. And then He'll finally say, now they're ready. They finally understand why they have to let go of people, places, and things that they have to let go of. Because they understand there is a bigger picture out there than just themselves. There is a bigger life, so to speak, out there for one another. As long as we follow the Lord, we'll be in good shape. Okay? However, following the Lord will make you, for example, go into a land of Canaan and have to fight for your victory. So it's not easy. Following the I would much rather go to battle under the covering of the Lord with the full armor of God on than getting outside of the covering and have to fight for myself. Okay? So, when God calls us onward, Abraham could not find the blessings of God in the failures of yesterday. He could not. He could not find the blessings of God in the failures of yesterday. I totally believe that. Every circumstance or issue that I created on my own, God wasn't in it. And I had to make a decision. So, Abraham would have liked for God to have blessed what he had done. He wanted things to stay the same way. Things to stay the way they were. And he wanted everything to be hunky-dory. And you want everything to go back the way it was before. Well, guess what? You can't go back there. You can't go back there. So, let's look at it this way. After all, what harm could there be in the son of promise and the son of a bondwoman growing up together? That answers the simple question. Abraham could have kept things the way they were. But there comes a point in our lives when we must deal with the failures or the consequences of yesterday. We cannot continue as if nothing has happened, as if no wrong has been done, as if we have not erred in God's plan. If you do not deal with your mistakes, church, after a while your mistakes will end up mocking your miracles. Okay? Abraham cannot walk into the future shackled to the failures of yesterday. And that is exactly why he had to kiss Hagar. He could not stay attached to that and move forward in what God wanted him to do. Okay? He was bound to the bondwoman. But he was about to learn that we must be willing to walk away from the failures of yesterday. We must do whatever it takes to be free from the bondwoman. It may appear that others are being blessed and you're not. It may appear that God's not even in their situation or their circumstance and they're getting ahead and you're not. I can assure you, without a shadow of a doubt, at 19 years old, having your own home, your own car, your own life, everything you ever imagined you could have at 19 to 20, I already had it. I worked for it, don't get me wrong. I already had it. But I got it, or I went about it, the wrong way. I got everything I ever wanted outside of the will of the Lord. And when you do those things, just like having to pack up a child and a woman and sending them out to fend for themselves, I had to place all of that stuff that I had earned outside of the will of God. Hear me. Okay? I had to take all that stuff, literally all of it, and put it on the curb, on the street curb. House going to foreclosure, whole shop. So all I could take is what I could carry in my pickup truck. And I had to watch people. I had to watch other human beings come by, open their trucks, open their vans, and take everything that I had bought, earned. All of it, church, all of it. A truck, a bed, a dresser, a couch, a TV, an entertainment and clothes, personal belongings. It's literally it. All why? Why? Because I created that stuff outside of the will of God. I had created all of those Ishmaels, or all of those problems, on my own accord. And I was paying for those consequences. Okay? But when you finally listen to the Lord, sometimes you gotta kiss Hagar goodbye and go lock yourself in a room. Or go, or move across the country. Or, sometimes you just gotta flat get rid of it in order for God to move back in, to take care of it. Okay? So, being bond of the bondwoman, we have to be willing to let go of those failures. Some of us have a difficult time letting go. I'm one of those particular individuals because I kind of have an addictive personality. And like golf, I will not quit golf unless I have no longer the ability to do it. And I love it. It's fantastic. I was able to stop the substance abuse. I didn't go to AA. I didn't go to any meetings. I didn't go anywhere but right there. Right there is where I got healed. I got sanctified, saved, and I'm not going back. I'm not doing it. Devil can laugh and chant and taunt all he wants, but he knows he can't touch me. He cannot touch me because I decided to kiss Hagar goodbye and not go back. I'm not going back to Hagar. We can't go back to Hagar. That's what God has moved up in the first place. So, in closing, does God have a plan for your life? I totally think that there is a plan for each and every one of us in here today. God has a plan for your life. It took me 30-odd years to figure out what God had for me. I'm only 33 now. But it wasn't up until I was about 30 years old when I really, truly understood what God wanted me to do. I'm standing right here doing it, right now. Not under my own will, not under my own power. I can't do this without Jesus. I cannot do this without the Lord's guidance. I cannot make a decision any longer. I cannot, Dawn and I, we pray every morning and every night with Jeremiah. And what I have found is that when we first started doing it, Jeremiah would be all rambunctious and not want to deal with that. I want to play. Right? Like, this is ridiculous. And now, when Dawn and I start to pray, he stops and he listens. He physically stops what he's doing. And he's not even 7 months old yet. I'm not tooting my son's horn here. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm saying here is when you train up a child in the way that they should go, they might stumble, they're going to fall, they're going to break some bones, they're going to hurt themselves, they're going to do things. That's not what I meant. They're going to do some things that make you go, ugh. But love, acceptance, forgiveness, strict guidelines, and love. And that they'll come back. They will come back. So with anybody struggling this morning, the Lord just kind of prompted me to do this. If you, Pastor Joni, wouldn't mind, there's some people that flat have difficulty letting go. and I understand that. There are some issues, there are some people, places, things, problems, areas of your life that you just don't like. There are things that you have created in your life that you don't want to deal with. There are things that you wish you had not gotten into in the first place. And I can tell you, because I've lived it, if you need forgiveness this morning, if you need help letting go of something, if you need anything, the Lord is here. But we have church. If we don't kiss Hagar goodbye, we're never going to get what God has for us. That's all there is to it. And I'm not even saying earthly stuff here. He said, I'm going to go and prepare a place for you. But there's some things that you're going to have to do along the way in order for that place to be finished. We have to finish the race, church. And sooner or later, there are people, places, and things, or ties, or institutions, or organizations that we may be tied to that we're going to have to say goodbye to. I didn't want to say goodbye to my best friend. I still don't. I miss him. Miss him a lot. But I know I can't go back there. Because thank God I learned from those mistakes. Thank God He showed me that He does love us. He is long-suffering over us. Thank God that He brought us out of the pit when nobody else cared, when nobody else would help. There's always someone, church. His name is Jesus. So, in closing this morning, you've gone as far as you can go with this bondwoman. You've gone as far as you can go with the mistakes of yesterday hanging over your head. You've gone as far as you can go trying to pretend that everything is all right this morning when you know it's not. You've gone as far as you can go holding on to your way of doing things. Kiss Hagar goodbye, church. God has something wonderful set before you. So with that, these altars are open. These altars are always open. If you need prayer, myself, Pastor Rick, if there's anything you need this morning, if you need a hug from on high, if you need a prayer for forgiveness or a deliverance of any kind, if you're having trouble letting go this morning,